And we're back, everyone. Thank you for joining again for our thoughts on video. We're, yes, again with our dear friend Jeremy. And
Hi there.
Mhm. And yes,
oh,
welcome everyone. So we just recorded a trio channeling with Jeremy and Merlin. And so if you haven't watched the video, you can click on the link. And so Jeremy, how it was this experience to do a trio channeling with us on the water theme?
Oh, actually, it was very fun. There was a flow to it. I noticed. Maybe in the beginning it kind of there was a little bit of a pause there because I noticed that I wasn't paying attention. I was like feeling what was going on and feeling the flow of movement, and then all of a sudden it was like yeah, like the connection between all of us just got stronger. And then I'm like, okay, this is it. We're going with the flow here. And it's very different experiencing a channeling with others at the same time. I noticed that there's it's so strong sometimes. Like I just feel like there's more expansion, more happening. Um, I I feel great gratitude actually for being able to experience this though. So I really appreciate you, Leo and Caroline, for allowing this to be even possible, and for any viewers that's watching, to hopefully expand their own ideas and connect to themselves. That allows them to understand that this power that, well, it's not really a power, but what we do is also what you can do as well. And so there's times where Merlin's magic kind of feels like the things that I've seen through the connection of Merlin has been eye-opening to understand what the human can actually do, and it's beautiful. So, how did it go for you guys?
Well, as for me, it's like if Ashtar had to step back from time to time. But at the same time, sometimes yes, he wanted to jump in for certain questions, and he was very excited to respond to reply. And it was very funny, especially at the end when Ra spoke about okay, if you have a messy room or something like this, and Ashtar was laughing. So at some point, I laughed, and he was laughing, and he was telling me, "Listen to this, dear one. Listen to this, dear one, because it's for you. It's this message is for you." And so there was this kind of inner dialogue when Ra was coming through Leo, and so yes, it was quite funny to observe, and also to notice that yes, sometimes it was a good balance, I think, between Ra and Ashtar for leading the conversation, because sometimes Ashtar was asking questions, sometimes it was Ra, and so it was very balanced, and I could feel that Ashtar didn't want to take the lead or the control of the conversation, and was very paying attention to the balance of the conversation, not to speak too much, not to be yes too much forward. And so he was very trying to co-lead or co-host this channeling, but also willing to make a room for everybody, and especially, of course, for our special guest Merlin. But it was very interesting because he stepped into more, and sometimes he was laughing, and then sometimes he was stepping back a little bit more observing, wanting to come back in the conversation. Then, so it was quite a very yes interesting to observe. How about you, Leo?
yeah, I mean, yes, for first off, the what Jeremy was saying, the energy was quite high, quite great. There's much more energy than when it's duo channeling. And when we first started duo channeling, Caroline, even then it was like, oh wow, this is there's so much life here, so much energy. But of course, with more people, there's even more of this. Interestingly, though, I think maybe our capacity has increased in a short amount of time because I do feel all of us are processing these energies much more than we were a week ago when we first trio channeled together. So that's really great, I think. And also, just yes, everything about the message. It just flowed so perfectly. We're talking about the cleansing aspect of the magic, and then how that transitioned to cleaning, and then how that yes, everyone on everyone's mind pretty much at one point in time we wish to have a wand that we could just wave and ah clean, clear. But
Yeah.
we're still working to that. We're still building up to that. And yeah, I loved the whole message. It was great.
And it was for me quite something that it happened quite sometimes, where I was in my kitchen washing the dishes or washing all the things that I should clean or extra, and I was like, "Come on, I know that this is possible to manifest a magical wands or something." And well, in fact, I was the magical wand myself,
Yes.
And
Yes.
but yes,
Yeah.
it's, um,
I
I love it.
noticed that with Merlin too, where he as things were progressing through contact and we were talking, there was always like he wanted to jump in, he wanted to come in, and I didn't have to have any resistance to it. I just noticed that he'll just tell me something instead, and it was either like something to pay attention to, even within myself, knowing that yeah, I mean, I can dream about um, waving a wand and making sure things are okay, or making things happen. But I noticed that yeah, you do have to put the action in first, and the action, even just us being here, is creating an action movement, and that kind of the water aspect of the flow and the moving along with each one of us, and then also having to do that in your own personal life, just kind of reminds us that this body is a tool for all of these things, not only cleaning our bedroom, but also expanding multidimensionally outside of this realm and seeing and connecting to all these amazing teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the experience today was much different than if I just did it by myself. And so yeah, it was great. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
and how do you feel physically, Jeremy?
I feel I feel smaller now. Interestingly, like I feel more condensed, density wise. Um, uh, the expansion that I get, like before we started, is like to allow almost all of them to be here at the same time, and I could actually I felt the difference between Ashtar and Ra and Merlin, but Merlin was always the present one in my body, and I can kind of like I don't know if you guys understand. You feel them kind of like outside of yourself in your area, but not really passing through yet. So that's so like now that that kind of expansion is smaller, I feel still very good and very clear, yet denser, like back into, oh, this is the physical reality that I have to be in again. But I also come with, I know that there's like a knowledge that I have within me that is allowing me to maybe work on what I got to clean up in my life.
And that's funny that you mention the physical presence of our guides, because before the channeling and right at the beginning, I could feel Ashtar, being really on my right shoulders and a little bit behind. It's like if I could lay my head on him, and I could really feel his presence. Um, yeah. And how about you, Leo? Do you sense sometimes the kind of physical presence of Ra?
Um, Not raw. I feel raw pretty much all the time. It just the level or the amount I can sense just differs depending on what I'm doing or how expanded I am. But yeah, I have felt sort of other being presences. It's like sort of in the room, and it's like I like glance over. I feel like I sense something. But I sense that those are more individualized beings. As for Raw, though, yes, because Raw is such a sort of coalesced and expanded at the same time sort of beingness. I just feel it sort of all around, all within, especially when I'm channeling. It's not like it's a specific place or an area in front of me or behind me. It's really like it's like I'm swimming in it. I'm swimming in Ra. Um, yeah.
That's how I would explain Raw as well, actually. Yeah. It's like a collective instead of an individual. Because I too felt Merlin from the left side behind me before we started channeling, and I personally don't have a lot of visions when it comes to seeing them, but when they're very close, I actually saw him this time, the wizard hat and all that stuff. So as I keep doing this more and more, each gift kind of comes up each time. Something more is revealed every time that I do this, and even as we have done this, uh, yeah, it almost felt like Ashtar and Ra, and then, or sorry, Ashtar and Merlin, and then Ra encompassing them all is how I kind of, because yeah, I mean, he teaches the law of one, so it's kind of like all aspects are all together. And then there's just us individually that we're together as well, connected through the ethers, I guess you can call it. Yeah. Uh,
Jeremy, is there a message that caught your attention? Is there something that resonated a lot with you during this transmission?
oh, now I'm trying to remember what we said. I can't think of one specifically. Oh, yes, Raw, when I talked about, or not I, when Merlin talked about the path of least resistance, Raw changed it to the what did he call it? The
Path of
energy of
most path of most excitement.
path of most excitement. Yes. Yeah, yeah. So the least the less that, and I was like, yes, that's exactly it. Merlin was like, yes. Yeah, he was like, "That's it." You said it so beautifully, Ra. Where it's like the least, and this is how I've noticed in my life is the things that I don't, I allow my excitement to be. The manifestation just comes, and that's the least resistance.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That was
I
the most,
totally I love
yeah,
that too when I was like sensing it. I can sense that that's what they're about to say. And right when I said, I was like, oh, that's so great. Yep, that's
yeah.
great. And I
That
could
was,
also sense that Ren and the Sasani collective were like all laughing, like, yes, like, yes.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
the Sasanis were near. I felt them too. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
How about
Well,
you, Liu? Oh, pardon. Sorry.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, I would say, I mean, everything. I really felt like it was definitely a continuation of our last water channeling. And it was like we were taking that and then funneling it down even more. And then it became really very practical and at the end. And I just loved that whole process. I was like, okay, wow. So they do have this. It is as if they want this to be integrated, right? They don't want this just to be airy fairy and then our personal lives, not being aligned with all of this. And so I could definitely see why they wanted to do it this way. It's it's very, very powerful. It's can be integrated more. Um, and in terms of like the actual, yeah, I think the actual like uh thing that they talked about that really stood out was when they were speaking about the rebecoming of the masters, and they were like, we understand you all want to become masters again. Yes, yes, yes. But they're saying it's a process, and they're saying that yes, the living your physical life, really, that's a big part of this process. It's not by trying to just fully transcend it and just not address things or create things. It was very much so they're like, no, you must embrace it all. You must like actually hug it all. Like there's nothing wrong with the physical. And so that really just resonated and stood with me. And yeah, I think that was definitely something I need to hear.
What about for you, Caroline?
I think I resonated with many things, and I am very happy because I have been able to keep up the conversation because most of the time after the channeling I don't remember anything. So sometimes I just have a few things here and there, but that's very blurry. And yes, most of the time I just don't remember anything. And so I have been very happy. I am very happy because I have been able yes, to keep up the conversation. And so there is not a specific topic that caught my attention. I think that everything was very, very and is very, very useful. So I think that I will watch the recording over and over and try to integrate everything that they just said. And yes, as Leo, it was quite funny because what they said about yes, you can become a master, but it will take a little bit of time anyway. So first you have to yes embrace also all the physical aspect and this is a process. And but I loved everything they said, and also it was more organized. So I think that yeah, how they handled the conversation was really great because it was really more organized, balanced, and I think it will be more easy to digest, you know.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question about your physical part during the channeling? Because I know, Caroline, you've mentioned in these thoughts before that sometimes you feel like what are you
Yeah,
heaviness
some
in the
pains.
chest area sometimes. I noticed for me, mine was more in the solar plexus, but it would come and go based on like how I felt, how close I felt with Merlin at the time. Because when he would jump in and out, I'd feel, or like, and I could feel them like helping me let go of the resistance. Because honestly, to sit here and also listen and then have them want to come in but realize that it's not time yet, it's like a balance that I'm like a pivotal point and I'm having to be here. Like I'm putting a pyramid here, but I'm like the middle between all of them, and I'm trying to like not resist it. I'm trying to allow the channeling to happen. I'm trying to allow the flow to go, and I'm just like it did flow very well, but I'm just wondering physically how did it feel for you guys?
To me, I have been I am having some days yes these last days I was quite tense already on that area. So what I did during the channeling is try to breathe a lot, try to relax my body, and try to make my body, especially around the heart, as loose as possible. Really not to the more loose I get, the better I feel, and also to try to breathe. And so, yes, sometimes it was more painful at some point, and then it released, and then it was painful. But today it's not exactly very relevant because I have been experiencing some pains these last days, and so it's not really relevant. But I try most of the time to get as loose as possible so that it's not that painful. And so, how about you, Jeremy? Do you experience some kind of pain around the solar plexus?
So yeah, like I would call it just density, or how they actually spoke about it. They talked about releasing stuck energy. So like I have doubts of what comes through still. I have doubts and sometimes feelings of like this can't be real. And like those thoughts literally create that usually in my chest and then down into my solar plexus. And so as you just said, I actually too had to not phys I had to actually mindfully be like, I need to breathe right now. I'm not breathing, especially when sitting there in between while listening, because it's much easier to breathe when they're kind of like when Merlin's channeling through me. But the in between part, like I'm like I can feel the tenseness in my shoulders and in my heart area. And but as you just said this, though, I realized that I feel that all the time, most of the time, and I'm always trying to consciously let those things go. And literally, yeah, it comes down to just breathing and focusing on that relaxation, even if I'm not channeling, I think. And I think I'm going to start practicing that more. It's just like, where am I feeling that kind of tension? I'm going to breathe and just know that the breath of life is a part of what the body needs. And it does work. I know that meditation and connecting to these amazing beings is in itself a way to let go of those energies, but to trust that it's me doing it is where I'm. Yeah, I think I'm going to start paying attention to. Yeah, yeah. I know that Leo's pretty. He's usually always like, I'm free, I'm great, and that's good to see too, because I know that that's possible, right? I believe that that's possible. So whatever I'm holding on to within me, I'll be able to let go of, and hopefully allow freedom within the body, and not only in the mind, but also in the body. Yeah.
So how about you, Leo? Do you feel extra good after channeling? Yeah.
Oh yes, I feel good. I feel good. But I think this ties perfectly into what Ra was talking about, how as we go about our day to day, we interact with so much life, and it can pile up. It could pile up at times, whether sort of in our body and in this way or sort of around. And for me, I still feel some condensedness, some stuckness a little bit around not so much anymore, but still a little bit around like the neck area. And it seems to be more and more migrating to outside of my body. Before it was very much similarly, yes, as Caroline and Jeremy, like within my body, absolutely definitely in my lower like belly area, the lower chakra centers. I definitely felt that. But the more and more I clear and work with this, um, there's still some I'm realizing as our capacity increases, our sensitivity increases. So I can actually sense quite clearly, oh, if I there's some energy here that I'm not really allowing to flow. And I can sense that, oh, if I just stay in this kind of pattern, it's going to condense and condense and condense and going to get stuck. So I realize, I sense this. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what they mean. So as you both are doing as well, I release it and breathe through it, and also Raw through me often moves my body a lot. And this is again, so I'm saying this is like I feel like this is the movement, whether we're breathing to move it or actually physically moving our bodies to move the energy. And when I do this, often it's because I could sense that there's a lot of life beginning to sort of pile up around my field, especially like a behind my neck head area. So often I would need to do these sorts of movements, and then when I do that, it clears it up, and I'm feeling good again. But yeah, I totally understand what you guys are talking about, and yes, I think we just got to move it a bit, move it through our breath, move it through our body.
Yeah, you couldn't see it, but because of the camera, but down here below, I'm sitting in a chair. Like my left hand was like facing the ground, so I was like releasing what I felt into earth, but also moving like a circular motion around the energies of my solar plexus, and that was like a flow movement. Like I've come to understand that there's a vortex and then the void. And so the chakras have the ability to flow out from in front of you, but they also have the ability to go from behind and out, which is the void. So I just imagine like a whirlpool of movement and stagnation moving outside of it. I was moving, trying to physically give myself an aspect and physical reality where it's like, yeah, I can move these just by shaking it around a bit and getting that life moving. So yeah, like, and I agree that it does feel like it's outside of myself. And what I've come to notice is those are where the emotions kind of sit just before the skin. Like my emotions can sit there. And then as I let go of the emotion, I go, okay, that's creating a thought and emotion. I can let those go. Okay, now the stuckness goes as well through breathing, through just paying attention to it too. So thank you for sharing that. That's reminded me of that. So that seems to be the theme for me today, to continue to allow the water to flow.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you so much for, does it feel like a close? I feel like it's
Yeah.
kind of ending. Yeah, yeah, this has been great. Appreciate you guys inviting me here. So
Yes, thank you for joining us, Jeremy. I'm sure we'll have many, many more in the future to come. But it was a great first official sort of a trio
yeah,
channeling here. And yeah, it was wonderful.
Yes, so thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us for this new episode on our thoughts. We hope that the channeling was helpful. Thank you again, Jeremy, for sharing, for channeling, for being here with us, and for accepting this recording that was very unexpected, maybe for you. So thank you a lot for being with us, and thank you all of you guys, yes, for joining us on this video.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. Until next time.
Yes.
Yes.
Catch you guys later. Bye-bye.
See you.